Hey, all, my name is Bryant Young.
And Derek Chaney.
Here with the Decent Dads Podcast. Brand new episode.
Another good one with another good buddy of ours, man.
Yeah. It's always fun having, and I say this a lot, but I mean it this time because I've known Matthew for a long time.
Yeah.
Very excited to have him here.
Yeah, Matt Suarez, man. He brought the stories, and it was a fun episode, for being three buddies. That first half of the podcast was a little serious, right?
Yeah, it was. And we like when we get to have those kind of talks where it's a little more vulnerable. We get to have those conversations that, frankly, we all think about it.
Sure.
It's all our internal dialogue, but not often do we sit in a circle and talk about it like this. And so we love the opportunity to sit down and just talk like that.
For sure. And then the second half, way more lighthearted, a lot more funny stories.
And the dad jokes kind of hit this time.
And there was a lot of dad jokes this time, too.
So I think you guys are going to like them. I think,
absolutely.
You got anything?
I got nothing, man.
All right, let's jump right into this thing. Decent Dads Podcast. Here we go. Good evening, folks, and welcome back to the Decent Dads Podcast. We're here to tell dad jokes, drink coffee, and build a community of dads navigating fatherhood together. I'm Bryant Young, fearless leader, co-host, girl dad, and your friendly local insurance agent based out of Springfield, Missouri. And now, before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He's a 6'3" sophomore shooting guard from small town Missouri. He wishes he was a first-team All-American, but instead, he's the coolest co-host with the most, a fantastic father of two and the home loan expert. Folks, put your hands together and welcome the incomparable Mr. Derek Chaney.
Yeah.
How are you, DC?
Man, get the people going.
Getting them going,
right?
Right? We're excited.
Right? Man, I'm doing good.
Sunday, fun day.
It's a good day for a good day, right?
It's a good day.
Chiefs are playing, so that's always a good day.
Go Chefs.
And I feel like I had a total dad day just before I came over here.
Yeah.
Right? So you wake
Elaborate.
up. Yeah, breakfast, go to church, and then you mow the yard. Right?
I mowed the yard today.
And I did something that I've realized I used to make fun of my dad for doing whenever I was little, and now I'm like, oh, now I'm doing that. So Powerball. Right?
Are you buying Powerball?
So, right, the Powerball's up to like $1 billion and some dollars, and on the way over here, I had to stop by the gas station. I was like, I'll do a Powerball ticket, and I'm like, I used to make fun of my dad for getting Powerball tickets, and now I'm that guy.
Yeah, I get it. Hey, but maybe I get that 1.1 billion or whatever the hell it is.
That's the best part is every time I buy a ticket, I'm like, all right, so here's what I'm going to do when I win. And never win. But you know what?
Yeah, we're going to call Matthew and say, Matthew, what do I do with all this?
There you go.
I know a guy that can help with that.
There you go. Well, that's a great segue into our introduction for our guest this week, man.
I'm
we got
excited to have
a
Matt
great
here,
guest. Man. Great guest today. One of our good buddies, Matt Suarez, is on the episode today. So, Matt, we know you pretty well. Some people might not. So, if you will, tell us who you are, what you do, give us your dad resume, tell us how many kids you got, what are their ages, and which one's your favorite.
Sure.
It's an easy answer for you.
It's an easy answer for me. One and done. So, my name is Matthew Suarez. I am a wealth management portfolio manager for Central Bank and Trust here in Springfield. I've been doing that going on 10 years, and I have one daughter, Mia, and she just turned 5, going on 15. Oh. She's a
I
that
get
sounds
that.
fun.
Yeah, she's a little sassy.
It's not a 3-nager, it's a 5-nager.
It's a 5. Yeah, it is. Our favorite word for it is sasshole at home. Yeah.
Wow,
sasshole.
I haven't heard that one yet. But
That's solid, yeah.
She's a little sasshole.
Yeah, I got one of those upstairs.
I want to steal that.
And you would be remiss if you didn't mention the missus.
Of course. Not that she'll probably watch this, but I would be in trouble if I didn't. So,
Kelsey, you better watch it.
Yeah. So yes, my wife Kelsey, or as Connor O'Mealy coined it, the better Suarez, which has followed me through Rotaract and Rotary, and now in downtown Rotary, she is known as the better Suarez. But yeah, so we've been married since 2019. So
that's great.
Dude,
awesome.
Congrats.
2019, that's good. Okay, so yeah, I've known Matthew since we were in middle school. Early high school.
No, we went to church camp together.
Well, that's what I'm
saying.
High school, right? Early high school.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you guys knew each other.
Yeah. And then
Young
fast
Life
forward
camp.
years later, he officiated my wedding. Yeah, like Matthew's
I remember that.
had been around for a long time for us. So speaking of the sasshole, inevitably,
sorry, Mia.
parents really love
Don't watch this in 20 years.
It's all right. You think your dad is silly now. Wait till you watch this 20 years from now. So you're dealing with a sassy kid. I'm sure that comes with tantrums. And even, every kid of every age is going to have a tantrum. What are you dealing with right now? Anything stand out to you?
Yeah. So obviously you said the word three-nager. 3, I think, was the hardest for me.
Dang it, my kid's only 2.
Yeah. No, 3's the worst. If anyone says otherwise, they're lying. Yeah. Because 2, we noticed, was very instinctual. Like, you take something away, they get mad, right? It's always it's very, very reactionary. 3, they start developing the ability to really kind of plan and really kind of scheme and stuff like that. So like when they get in trouble, they're twice as mad because they actually thought it through. But
Sounds diabolical.
It is. But at 4 and now for 5 for Mia, it's more complex tantrums for her, or at least the things that she's getting mad about. So the one recently from this week is she's kind of a little bit of a fashionista, which thankfully she gets that from her mother, because my God, if I didn't have to wear a suit every day, I wouldn't know what to wear. It's real easy. Shirt, tie, done. And so Kelsey had to leave for work early, and so I got Mia up, got her dressed, and she goes, "Daddy, I want pigtails." And I can do a lot of things. The hairstyling is not one of my skill sets.
Fall on my face with
no,
that, yeah.
and Mia can do with a hairband. She can do a better ponytail than I can at 5. But she's like, "No, I want pigtails." And I'm like, I don't know how to do pigtails. And she's like, "We can't leave until I have pigtails."
You too.
All right. So she's got these rubber bands that are smaller than the size of my finger, and half an hour of trial and error, because of course I do one, I'm like, oh, that looks pretty good, and then I do the other one, and then I realize I missed 18 strands of hair right in the middle, and I'm like, now she's got a redneck rat tail going on in the middle, and so half an hour of pigtails. We got it done. Then of course we had to go look in the mirror, right? No, we can't just walk out the door.
No.
We got to go to the bath. So I picked her up on the counter, and she's looking in the mirror. She's like, "Okay, Daddy, that looks good. We can go."
Pass the test.
Passed it. Strolled into work at 9:15 that morning. So
Nice.
pick your battles.
Dude, I'm telling you, that was the first thing when I learned that I was having a girl that I got scared to death about. Because I've talked about it ad nauseum on the show. I've come from a long line of dudes, and I don't know nothing about doing hair. So I went down the YouTube rabbit hole about trying to. And we still, frankly, she still runs around like a ragamuffin these days, but trying to figure out, hey, the little clippy things are great. Those little pressure clippy barrette kind of thing. Yeah. Greatest thing ever. Use those every day.
Yeah, I feel like doing girls' hair for guys is equivalent to tying a tie for women.
Preach.
Right?
Yeah.
Fair.
It's one of those innate things. Yeah.
Yep.
But
especially when you wear a suit and tie every day.
Yeah. It's nice and
How
easy.
long did it take you to tie your tie? Like 5 seconds.
Oh yeah.
30 minutes.
It's actually funny on a tangent. Every once in a while, because I don't even think about it anymore. You just do it. But every once in a while, I'll catch myself thinking about it, and then I'll realize that I don't consciously know how to tie it, only unconsciously. And I'll actually, it's happened to me a couple of times where I've forgotten in the middle of tying it, and I've literally had to set it down, walk away, go do something else, and come back again. Because when I try to do it consciously, I can't do it, and I'm like, that's kind of sad.
Do you catch yourself? I can't do it in the mirror. I have to not see it.
I'm usually just walking around, I'm sliding my shoes on at the same time. I got to be doing other stuff.
That's where I am too. I'm to the point where if I watch myself do it, I'm like, well, no shit, that's backwards.
Yeah.
No. And then it ends up like this giant wad, and it's about this.
It's right here.
Well, and Matthew and I both suffer from the same symptom of called big neck.
Yeah,
big neck.
Where ties have to be very tied in a very specific way, so that they don't end up at about our tits.
And the back part's only about that long, sticking behind the tie.
It's called big neck.
Yeah.
Speaking of tantrums, Derek, what are you dealing with?
Well, it doesn't have
not
to
a big neck.
Deal with ponytails, big necks, ties, none of that.
Skinny bastard.
But no, man, I feel like probably since we started recording episodes, both my boys have been devout members of the Church of Dad.
You got some converts, huh?
I feel like they're trying to convert on me to the old Church of Moms. So just yesterday, so Allie had a reception that she had to do for some of our friends, not a ceremony, just a reception. And so I was going to take the boys there, and so I took the boys there, and of course there's like all these desserts. Like there's like 5 different kinds of cupcakes.
It's
you
a
got
wedding.
Cake, you got fruit, like all this stuff that the boys are loving. They have a couple friends there that they're playing with, just having an awesome time. right? Loving it. And so then we get in the truck to leave, and Allie has to stay there, keep working. Get in the truck. Liam's like, I need Mama. She's my best friend. And I'm like, whoa, hold up.
I'm your best friend.
Yeah. Hey,
what are we talking about right
We've
now?
had a solid 3.5 years here. What do you think you're trying to do here, okay? And so he's just like upset, whining the whole way home because he had such a fun time. And Brody the whole way home, Mama. I'm like, guys. But at the same time, too, I'm like, so this is how Allie normally feels. The boys always want me. So I'm like, okay.
I'm on the receiving end of that.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Liv is definitely number one in this house. 100%. I can only understand that.
I'm here to let you know it could change, so there's still hope for you.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. Liv told me this morning. We were laying in bed, and Elsie comes running in with a book and lays down because I'm laying in bed, kind of like halfway up, and Elsie comes running in with her book and goes to lay down next to me, realizes that Dad is the fun one, and she wants to play with Dad. But for a second there, she was going to snuggle with Dad, and that's just not right. So she yells, nope. Mom, come in here. Mommy, come in here. Mama, as she's been saying the last couple of days. Mama, come in here. I'm going to snuggle with you so Dad can read book. Got it. Thanks, kiddo. Love you too. God. But our tantrum this week is kind of a reverse tantrum. She didn't have the tantrum. We got to watch other kids have the tantrum, and she was an angel.
Really?
We're walking through, was it Target? I think it was Target, whatever. We're walking through a store, and there's the Halloween section, right? There's all the spooky stuff, and there's all the costumes, and Elsa's been on a Halloween kick lately.
Sure.
So we go walking through there, and she's just wide-eyed, happy as can be, pointing out the skeleton. She went from skeleton to skeleton. So skeleton. And was so excited about it all. And there are 2 or 3 other kids in the aisle just losing their shit because they're scared to death. And
really?
The parents are like trying to pick out like a costume for the older sibling or something.
Yeah.
And the other one's just trying to quickly get a pumpkin or something out of there. And their kids are screaming. They're just freaking out. And Elsie's just happy as a clam. Look at the skeleton. Look at that. Spooky witch. Spooky witch. Great.
Doesn't that
it's
make
like,
you
way to go,
feel
kiddo.
So good as a parent when your kid is not
the problem.
one
Yes. Well, and that goes right into my dad hack. So I don't mean to steal your introduction here, but it goes right into my dad hack. And so lean into what your kids are into in the moment.
Oh yeah.
And it's nothing groundbreaking by saying that, but I don't really love to decorate for different holidays because I look at it as you put it up and then I can literally see the date in the future where we're going to have to take all this shit down again.
Oh,
and it feels like a complete waste of time to me. But she loves Halloween right now. And so when you guys go outside, you'll notice the 3 ghosts hanging in my tree.
Your front yard's pretty decorated.
And I've got the little inflatable spider thing blown up on her front porch, and there's pumpkins everywhere, and there's a skeleton on the door. And she loves every second of it. Every time we walk by the front door, skeleton. Oh, yeah. There's my skeleton. Yep. Yes, ma'am. I lean into what they're into in the moment because, as we all know, little kids are so changeable. It could change in a heartbeat. But while they're into it, man, lean into it because Elsie's having a freaking blast right now.
I mean, I feel like that's one of my favorite memories as a kid was my mom was very much like that. She would decorate for every single, no matter how small the holiday was. And I just remember as a kid, seeing those decorations come out. I'm like, this is awesome. I love it. Because we had the skeletons and all that stuff.
Sure.
So yeah, man, that's awesome. Well, Matt, Bryant kind of alluded to it with his dad hack.
Dad hack alert!
There, but that's the next question we always ask everybody is, give us your best dad hack that works for you, or maybe you might have some dad advice that you want to share with us and other dads.
So I was thinking about this, and for a dad hack, there's one that I use probably the most consistently, and someone maybe brought it up on your show, I'm not sure, but I set timers on my phone when I'm playing with Mia, and then have it extremely audible when it goes off, right? And so I'm the one, the rough houser, right? And so her and I are, we're playing all the, the jumping games on the bed, throwing her, or, helicopters, all that kind of stuff. And usually it's at 9 o'clock or 8:30, and we shouldn't be doing this right now. But again, it's all about picking the battles, and it's all right, I can give her 15 minutes of this, or I could set my phone for 5 minutes. tell her it's 10 minutes. And when it goes off, I'm like, okay, it's been 10 minutes. And here's how they argue, because, she's Kelsey's my kid, so she's already going to be a debater now.
Of course.
And so I'll tell her, like, all right, Mia, we'll do this for 5 more minutes. Again, starting the bidding low, right? We'll do it for 5 more minutes. And then she'll have to counter and go, no, Daddy, I want to do it for 10 minutes. Okay, baby, we'll do it for 10 minutes. I set my alarm for 5. Right. She doesn't know the difference, right?
No idea.
5 minutes goes by, the alarm goes off. I'm like, okay, all right, 10 minutes. And I noticed a dramatic decrease in the amount of tantrums because we both agreed upon a set amount of time.
Yeah.
She knows it's coming. I'm not stopping right in the middle of the play and going, all right, we're done.
Right.
It's not that sudden jerk out. And so that's what we do very consistently, specifically at bedtime, but just kind of in general, is I have control. And sometimes it's 2 minutes. Sometimes it's, 5, and then I'll set it for 2 more, telling her I'll give her 5 more, whatever. Obviously, I have complete control. But when that alarm hits, she goes, okay, that's what we agreed upon. Usually there's not an argument after
We're
that.
big believers in that thought process on this show. We like that a lot.
Yeah.
Nice, well said.
Setting that expectation for them.
Yeah, just so they're not surprised, because the sudden change is what sets off those emotions.
Definitely.
What about you, DC? What are you working on?
Well, I didn't have this one written down until you said the whole Halloween thing, and
you're welcome.
And it cued one, or made me think of one that we've been utilizing here recently. And so I don't know why, but it is October now, I guess, and so we're getting into Halloween, and so Liam wanted to start watching Halloween songs before bed, right? Well, also kind of at the same time, when we put him in bed, he would just sit in the corner of his bed, didn't want to lay down, and so then it was like a hassle to like get him to lay down for bed. He's like, no, I'm just going to sit right here. And then it was like it was a battle. But we started watching Halloween songs, and so I'd tell him, I'd be like, okay, you can watch your 2 Halloween songs if you lay down, put your head on the pillow, and cover up. And so he's like, okay, that's a good deal. I really want to watch my songs, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, so he lays down, watches his songs, and then he's already laying there and doesn't try to get up and fight the sleep battle or anything like that. And he's good to go, man. So that's worked well for us. So
that's solid.
I think what you were saying earlier, lean into whatever your kids are into and use that against them.
Right? For sure. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we've talked about the creativity that goes into being a dad that kind of goes unspoken.
Yeah.
Like, you have to get really creative, whether it's negotiating and manipulating the time a little bit, or it's like, hey, I know you're into this thing, so I'm going to dangle this carrot right out in front of you and say, here's what we're going to do. You have to get really creative being a parent. It's super not something that I expected to have to deal with.
Oh, right? Yeah. Coming from the least creative guy, both of you probably know.
Dude, I'm the same way. Like, it's so bad.
I remember thinking, I think like everybody, probably not just dads, before you had a kid, you're walking through the store and they're throwing a temper tantrum. You're like, no, my kid's never going to do that, right? Yeah, I'm never going to just buy him a toy just to shut him up and get out of the store. And I bought so many damn toys.
You know what they say about best laid plans, right?
Or it's like, my kid's going to be dressed to the nines all the time, always have perfect hair.
Yeah.
That went out the door real quick.
We're not going to watch TV. We're not going to use the
Screen
phone.
No tablets.
Bullshit. Whatever.
So true.
Matthew, we talked about this a little bit ahead of time, but you had a handful of stats that I thought were super interesting, and I wondered if you would kind of share those with the people, and also so we could just kind of tee up this conversation again.
Sure.
Tell me about some of those stats that you had.
Sure. So this is something I came across probably about a year ago, and I kind of followed through it because it was one of those. I think I first saw it as like a meme, and you're like, all right, well, there's about a 50% chance that's real, and then you kind of dive down the rabbit hole. Yeah, that's right. Politics, religion, it's all meme. It's all meme based, right? It's how I get all my good information. But this
has to be back.
But this particular one I kind of looked into, and for all intents and purposes, seems to be pretty accurate. But the stat is that by the time your child is the age of 12, you will have spent 75% of the total time in your life with them by the age of 12, and then by the age of 18, that'll be 90%. And Bryant, I know you and I both live in the same town as our parents. Sure. Derek, do your parents live in town?
About an hour north.
Okay, so and I didn't have my grandparents were in Jeff City in Florida. I didn't have a great relationship with them, and so it was real important that Mia get to know her grandparents much more than I did. And so so that statistic really kind of hit hard for me.
Preach.
That by 12, 75% 75% of the time I'm going to spend with her is done. And, when she turns 18, I don't get to pick her college mostly, right? I don't get to pick whether she stays here or never comes back, right? And, it's just as likely that I see her at Christmas only every year if she's living halfway across the country as she stays here and I get to see her pretty regularly, right? And so that, for me, especially that 75% by 12, it hit me, because in those moments where I'm like, all right, you just play, I'm going to go dig off on my phone, I need a moment, right? Or, I'm going to go do this thing while you're doing that. It just kind of hit me. It's like, literally, there's only so many days, and 3/4 of the time I'm going to spend with her are going to be gone in now 7 years for me. Right. I mean, she's 5, right? I'm almost halfway through that number, right? At her age, she'll be 6 in a year now, and I'll be halfway through that 75%. So
that's crazy.
That one hit me a little hard. So.
Well, for sure, and it's like I feel pretty fortunate to work in the family business, to where ours is a little different, but I still, they talk about mom guilt a lot. Or there's a lot of I'm talking about memes again. Yeah. There's a lot of meme or online culture shit around mom guilt, but the dad guilt stuff is real too. Our hobbies generally take longer.
Right.
my hobbies take a lot longer to do than my wife's. Golf takes 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
Plus a half hour worth of travel time. So that's a 5-hour deal.
Yeah.
And that's 5 hours I could have been spending with my family. And now, like you're saying, it's God damn, dude. 12 is 3/4 of the way home.
Yeah.
Don't like that at all.
Right.
Don't like that at all. Chaney had one that he talked about a couple of years ago where it was counting down the number of things. You've got 18 Christmases and
18 summer breaks and stuff. Yeah.
Right. And you get to play Santa for 8 years or whatever it was, 8 times I guess it is. And so it's nuts, man. Man, I've had that realization a lot lately too, because I know both of you guys have been through Leadership Springfield, and I'm just going through it now. And they go over your top 5 strengths or whatever. And one of mine,
Clifton Strengths, right?
Yeah.
Clifton
Strengths Finder.
And one of mine was focus. Was one of mine, and then you start reading into it, and it's with your personality type, whatever's on your mind, you just focus on that thing until you complete it. And now that I've realized that, oh man, I'm focused on this one thing. And then, you're saying, I need phone time over here to just relax, but you're not really, paying attention or giving your kids the time that they need. And so now I've really tried to, focus in on that and be like, hey, you're focusing on this thing, but it's not that important. So, let's hang out with the kiddos. And then another thing that really stood out to me too, is listening to this song the other day. It's These Are the Days by Corey Asbury. And there's a line in there, and it's funny how lines in songs hit you different whenever you become a parent, right? It says, there was a time when we were your world, and now you're off to marry your girl, right? And so I thought about that. I'm like, man, I was like, we're only going to be Liam and Brody's world for maybe 10 years, maybe if that long, right? Because then they're going to be into sports or want to go hang out with their friends or want to go play games, whatever it is that they're into,
or whoever they want to go date, and that kind of stuff,
right? And so it's man, it's every time I hear that line in there, man, it hits me. I'm like, man, we only have a finite amount of time.
Sure.
That we can really be with our kiddos, and it's so bittersweet, dude.
Yeah. Kelsey's allowed to date when she's married.
Yes, we're not Catholic, but Mia will be a nun. We will convert to Catholicism about that time. So no, the one that it always kind of stuck with me from probably my favorite movie of our childhood was Hook. Right, Robin Williams, right, and that scene where Robin Williams is as Peter Pan or Peter Banning wigs out on his kids because he's on the business call, right? We're all 3 business guys, I take Mia to school and pick her up every day, and sometimes I get a business call and I got to shush her a little bit while I'm on the call with my boss or a client, and so in that scene he wigs out, and Peter's wife, is trying to explain to him that we only get a few special years with our children where they want us around,
right.
And he's and she's and shortly after that we'll be chasing after them for a bit of attention. Is kind of roughly a summation of her words. And of course, again, when you're 10 years old watching that movie, you're I don't understand what that means, but you watch it now and you're like, crap, yep, that's true.
I've never thought of it like that, where the roles kind of flip flop.
Right?
They're begging for your attention, and then here before too long, because our kids haven't hit that age yet.
Yeah.
we'll be begging for their attention.
Yeah.
So we had Ben Garwitz on a few weeks ago. Gary Garwitz, his dad is a longtime friend of the family, and when Gary found out I was having kids, he and I talked for a minute, and he was like, all right, so here's my one piece for you. I got my one piece of coaching. Get as in-depth and build as strong a relationship as you can for the first 13 years with that kid. Because the next 13 years, that kid's not going to like you. They're going to be in their own shit. They're going to be doing their own thing. And frankly, you're going to have a teenage girl that, she'll be in her own, hormonal crazy teenager years. And then she'll be in her early 20s and she'll know everything in the world and she won't want to hear anything to do. Yeah, won't want to hear any advice from you. And then when and then he said, the next 13 years, you get your kid back. But they're not a kid anymore. Right. They're an adult. So you get to see the product of your work when they're in their 20s and 30s. Yeah. But recognize that those middle 13 years are going to blow. Like, that's just really going to suck. Right. So get in all that time you can right there at the beginning and build as strong a relationship as you can. And I'm sure that's not everybody's experience. Right. But I was like, God, that makes sense. I've never had girls. I didn't really have. Was your sister a crazy person?
Oh yeah,
in her teenage years.
Oh yeah, definitely. So much so, like, she moved out of the house for a little bit.
Yeah,
just because, like you were saying, like the whole teenage hormonal thing, and she knew better and all this stuff.
Want nothing to do with mom and dad, and then now I think they.
Oh, they have a great. I was gonna say now they're
great pals.
Great relationship. Yeah.
So it's one of those deals where it's a freaking ticking time clock, or it's a ticking time bomb. Excuse me. That it's one of those deals where it makes you go, okay, I'm gonna stop talking about this so I don't start crying. But yeah, man, that stuff's for real.
All right, Matt. Well, you do some financial planning, wealth management at work, and I know we've touched on this a few times just when we've been talking. But
we haven't talked about this specific thing, so I want to get into it.
We haven't, but you said college planning.
Yeah,
that scares the shit out of you.
Scares the shit out of me. And I only have one kid, so
preach.
So talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. So obviously in financial planning, we're thinking about the different stages of life and everything. But I remember, Setzer and I and a couple others were messing around in our financial planning software, which obviously can project out, and it actually is connected to most of the universities out there.
Oh, really?
And then it can inflate, based on the cost of that university, and then of course medical as well as education inflates at like 7% a year on average, right? 58% a year in the last couple of years, but 7% a year on average. And so just like the cost of what Missouri State will run, right, Mizzou will run, and let alone like a Drury or something else.
Private school, sure.
And whereas a lot of our generation is graduating with $30,000 worth of student debt, like a degree at Missouri State's going to be over $100,000, right? Maybe somewhere up to close to 150, and Mizzou's even more than that, right? And so it kind of forced me and Kelsey to kind of have a different outlook. I think us generationally have a different outlook. But I remember when I was a senior in high school, like the worst thing you could do was like go to OTC, right? I think college was just drilled into us so much. Like, trade school didn't exist, right? Yeah. You kind of look down on those kind of folks, right? It was just kind of how it was presented to us. And I look at it completely differently. We live in Ozark. I would love nothing more than for me to go to the Richwood Valley campus on 14 there for 2 years, right? I was like, whereas when I turned 18, my dad's like, get the hell out, go live in the dorms, right? You need that experience. Yeah. I'm like, no, like, let's not take on a whole bunch of unnecessary debt. Like, live with us, talk curfew, we'll kind of work that out, right? Sure, that 13 to 26 thing, but we'll create something that works for us, that you're not having to go spend $1,500 a month at an apartment or in the dorms, and hopefully you get A+ program, assuming that's still around at that point, right? And I think our way of looking at it and then presenting it to Mia will be so much different than when we were kids. It's like, our goal is to get you an education and not force you to live at home for 10 years afterwards because you can't afford anything else, right? And I think the other thing I learned is that it doesn't really matter where your degree's from for most of us, right? I mean, we're all three in business.
Your degrees in,
dude.
It's true. And so those are some of the truths that I've kind of come to terms with, and it's like, how do I get her out without, maybe she'll do scholarships, maybe she'll do Bright Flight, maybe she'll do the IB program at Ozark, which my cousin did, and basically got a full ride to Mizzou. All those are maybes, and those are great,
awesome.
right? But it's like, what are the things I can control? We've got a 529, but I don't know if I'll have $150,000 in 10 years.
So, like, you can do the investing now, and you can you plan for the worst, hope for the best, and then it'll end up somewhere in between.
Yeah.
And so, like what you're saying, you've got the 529, and you'll put some money into that, and hopefully she'll get some scholarships. But even if she doesn't, you'll be able to help her on her way with some of that stuff. I love that thought process.
Yeah. Or it makes me think, too, it's like, places like College of the Ozarks become more popular, right? Or like you said, your community colleges where they come out of there with no debt. Or, too, I think about that a lot, too, because like you were saying, if we didn't go to college after high school, we were failures, right? I mean, that was just how it was when we were in school. And now I'm like, well, shoot, there's guys that don't go to college, do the trades.
And they're kicking our ass and have been kicking our ass for
great
years.
money. So I'm like, well, shoot,
traveling welders,
right?
Oh, dude.
Or just any of the blue collar jobs now, right? Your plumbers and carpenters, all that stuff, man. They make great money because there's nobody that does it now. And so it's like, should you push your kids that way?
Yeah.
I mean, the over the road folks are making six figures.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, it is. We all three graduated from Springfield Public Schools in the 2000s, and that was very much a thing, that it was, you're going to college.
Yep.
You need to go to college. And I think that's just a generational thing that happened between the 90s and the 2010s, that was just the way that it was. You go to college or you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And, and so often, particularly now knowing like what's available in Springfield, I mean, you mentioned OTC. I had the opportunity to be in some of the new buildings that they're doing with the advanced manufacturing and some of those things that they're working on. Holy shit, those are meccas to education.
Right.
Those are just palaces built around education, but it's not book learning. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not traditional sitting in the classroom book learning. And the three of us are the two of you more specifically are a testament to what your degree is in doesn't really matter what you do.
Nope.
You've got a biology degree and you've got a religion degree.
Yeah, history
and
religion.
a history degree.
Yeah.
So
And we've both been in the financial world ever since.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
10 years in finance.
Like my business degree in marketing kind of applies to the insurance world, but not really. So, and like a couple of the more successful insurance agents that I know of have kinesiology degrees. So often, particularly in our age group, people went to school because they were told to go to school, but it didn't matter for shit for what they're doing now.
Right.
Short of being able to check on the application, I have a degree.
Yeah,
right.
Again,
like opens that door, but that's
It's not like I walked into. I'm sitting here thinking, I could not tell you where my doctor went to school, including medical school. I could not tell you because I am friends with the financial advisor that helps us. I know where he went to college, but that's because he's a friend of mine. I wouldn't have known otherwise. I work with so many of my friends. Like I know where my lender went to college, but that's because he's one of my closest friends. So like I don't know that that's a thing that really matters to me. I don't care what's on the wall.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it all falls back on that. It doesn't matter, what you learn. It's more about the experience that you have, right? And that's where the actual learning takes place.
Well, and to be clear, I took a lot out of college. Most of it was not book learning, but I took a lot out of college. I mean, the learning how to be an adult on your own, the interpersonal relationships, the interpersonal conflicts, learning how to deal with that stuff out without the umbrella of mom and dad. You know what I mean? Like I can say some dumb shit to somebody because I know that my parents are going to be there to backstop it if something happens. Well, that doesn't really work when you're 100 and when you're 200 miles away in Arkansas somewhere. So, but I do think, to be clear, I do think there's a lot of value that comes with college.
Sure.
Particularly if it's something that fits your skill set. I'm okay with my hands. I can do, little basic carpentry and shit, but I don't think that would be something that I could do for a living. So it made sense. But
my other goal with Mia that was different than my experience and no qualms with my parents. I just didn't know is providing her kind of the list of options, right? I don't know, and maybe you all had good guidance counselors in high school that gave you the list. I don't know. I had a great counselor, but we didn't really talk about this whole mess. But it was talking about, okay, well, if nursing's your thing, this is really the direction you kind of need to be going, right? Or a trade school or something like that. I mean, I think part of it was I walked into college and I was one of those like, what should my major be? I have no idea. And it just, okay, I'm taking some classes. Hey, I like history. I guess I'll go do this for a while, right? And I'd really like her to, at least have more experience with a plan just because she's maybe gotten to see it, right? Or like, can she go shadow a nurse for a little while if she wants to do that, right? Can she go check out a manufacturing floor if she might want to do that? And so one of my goals is to provide her a little bit more of that opportunity so that when she's 18, walking on a college campus, walking on OTC campus, whatever, she has some concept of a path for herself. And if she changes it, great, no problem. You find a new interest, go for it. But just to be a little less clueless than I was at 18, which is not, that bar is on the floor, but.
Me and Allie talk about that a lot too, and I think a big thing that we're in agreement is like as soon as they have their driver's license and maybe even before, having them get a part-time job, right? That way they can figure out, hey, I do like doing this or I don't like doing that or whatever. That way they do have somewhat of an idea. But it kind of makes me think, you brought it up there, I feel like college did serve a really good purpose, for me, and sounds like for you and probably for you too, Matt, where it kind of helps you like so slowly ease into adulthood, not necessarily what you learn. And so it's like, well, now if our kids don't go to college, what's going to be their experience for that, right? And I don't know, and you don't know until you get there, but
yeah, and that was my dad's point with the dorms was like you learn more in that first year getting kicked out living in the dorms. And it's a great point, right? But you got to counterbalance that with what the cost will be 15 years from now compared to what it was 30 years ago. And that's where I kind of toe the line of it was the best learning that you could do, but at the cost I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
So.
Or I had some buddies in college, they still lived at home, and their parents, though, once they hit 18, once they graduated high school, made them start paying rent. And I was like, why would those parents do that? And then now you become a parent, and I'm like,
get it now.
I understand why you're doing that.
Yeah, because I want the money. No.
I'm broke. I need help. Okay. Give me my allowance, son.
I'm getting reimbursed for that prom dress I just bought 6 months before.
That's exactly right. Yeah. No, it's interesting to hear you guys talk about that, though, because I just joined the Foundation for Springfield Public Schools board of directors this year, and it's literally within the last couple of months, and so I'm still learning. But we did a visit and we had a board meeting at Hillcrest, your high school, and they talked about
Hornets.
Go Hornets.
I didn't know anyone said that.
That felt dirty coming out of my mouth. But the principal came in and spoke, and it was so interesting and refreshing to hear him talk because it was exactly centered around this conversation that we're having, that preparing kids for the next step, whatever that is. So it's either we're preparing you for a career out of high school and we're going straight into a career, or we're preparing you for college that is a 2-year associate's degree, getting your refrigerator ticket, or you're getting your plumbers, you're going to go learn how to do some plumbing stuff or manufacturing or whatever, or we're preparing you for a 4-year college. And he was talking about how they have programs that help all of anywhere in that spectrum. If we're going to help you get set up for a job right out of school, then we're going to help you get set up for that job. Sure. But the high school education has even changed and at least has a focus on understanding that there is a spectrum of things to do once you get done with high school. It's not just go to college. It's you could have a career straight out of school and frankly, you can make FU money straight out of high school if you do the right thing. But it's just prepping kids to know the options that are available to them so they can go do it.
Yeah, and thankfully they're prepping them, because if we would have gotten it at FU money at 18, it would have been beer and Captain Morgan money is what it would have been.
Well, we were talking about what you learned on campus the first years. I developed a war chest through high school for myself, and that was my savings account. And then when I went to college, my parents were like, okay, we're going to help you with school and we're going to help you with room and board, but anything else, that's on you. Duh. And so I had all of my money squirreled away from all my little high school jobs or whatever, and I blew every penny of it in the first 6 months. Literally, the first semester, I blew every penny.
Taco Bell and beer.
Dude, I'm telling you. And my dad was like, well, looks like you're going to have to figure something out. shit.
I wish I could.
And I learned so much about that. It's like, oh, financial, like, personal management, personal financial management. That's important.
One thing I am jealous of my younger self is I wish I could stretch a dollar as far now as I could whenever I was a college kid. Right?
Well, $1 now is 50 cents then. So
that's true.
That's the oldest thing I've ever said. That is the oldest thing I've ever said. That is the most dad bullshit. And as soon as it came out of my mouth, I went, God, are you 1,000?
No.
Back in my day,
it was $300 a semester.
Sorry, that was just completely out of the way. So speaking about like when our kids get out of school when our kids get out of school and go to college or whatever they do in their next level, you start getting jobs. They start doing that. We're all three professional folks, and we're married to professional folks, and we wanted to talk a little bit about work-life, parental life balance, whatever, work-life balance, work balance, which is kind of the better way to say it these days. Because frankly, I love my job and I love what I do, but I like my family so much more.
No,
I'm gonna say life
right?
work. I'm gonna say life work
work.
balance.
Yeah.
Tell us about your thoughts on like parental work life balance.
So it's been a challenge for me. It's something that over the last 5 years I've kind of, and the pandemic helped with it because you couldn't do a lot of the stuff. And I think I kind of had a reevaluation during the pandemic for me, which I know a lot of folks did. But, Mia was born in 2018. So 2019, beginning of 2020, I was on 5 boards, right? I was doing Leadership Springfield, right? And all of this stuff. And it was, I took Mia and I picked her up, but, I leaned on the grandparents. They lived, my folks live in town. I have an aunt and uncle in Ozark. And so it was, how many charity dinners can I go to, right? Which is part of the job, right?
Yep.
And
Handshaking and baby kissing.
Yeah. But there's an opportunity cost to that, and that's not being home. And so then you get thrown into the pandemic and you spend all your time with your kid, right? Almost, literally the other end almost to that spectrum. And so, Mia's been in daycare basically since she was 6 weeks or 8 weeks, whatever it is. And they, one case would pop up, and then all of a sudden we're home for 2 weeks, all three of us, right? And Kelsey and I are working from home and balancing Mia, and that really kind of was really interesting because Kelsey and I would sync our calendars and be like, all right, I got to call a client at 10, and she goes, all right, I'll be in the living room with Mia from 10 to 11. I've got a call at 11:30. Okay, and so we did that for a year and a half probably, just syncing calendars, and that really kind of changed my perspective that okay, this is the important stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Why we go to work? Yeah, this pays for the house, pays for the car, pays for the daycare. But I mean, she's my legacy. She is she is going to remember the time I spent with her, not the charity thing I did or the award I won or some crap like that. And so just really kind of reshifting a focus. And I'm still on boards and stuff like that, but it's much more targeted than I ever was in the last 5 years.
The cat's in the cradle and the
silver spoon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's but truly, that's, I mean, Liv and I, Elsie was born in 21, and so we had the pandemic locked inside, which is how we got a kid. And
go figure.
So many children born in 2021.
We were bored.
They're going to call them the Corona Boomers.
They are.
Yes.
Coined it here first.
Yeah. What was it? There was some, I don't remember what it was, but there was some joke made about what that generation is going to be called, but it's out there. But what I was trying to say was, I was doing a lot of the nonprofit-y boards and getting involved and doing the Rotary Club and doing the this and doing the that. And when Elsie was born, we had to both Liv and I both had to take a step back and go, okay, one, we don't have time to do the shit that we were doing before, and two, we don't want to do the shit that we were doing before. Like, my kid is way cooler than anything else that I get to do. And so, hanging out with her is way more fun. So, we made a concerted effort that we still do enough stuff because I'm a sales guy. So I've got to be out doing this stuff.
Yeah.
But I've been way more specific about, okay, I'm going to do Rotary, and I'm going to do one, B2B networking thing, and one, charitable nonprofit thing. That's it. That's where I'm drawing the line. To your point, it's hard to say no as a young professional with no kids in your 20s.
Yep.
You get asked for an opportunity, it's like, well, yeah, I don't have shit else to do.
Yeah.
My wife's still going to love me nonetheless. And so she can still, and we can go to all the parties together. We can do all the stuff.
Right.
It's just one of those deals. And you guys have an interesting balance because Allie's schedule is, quote, non-traditional.
Yeah.
Because she's still in the wedding world, right?
Yeah. She's still doing the wedding planning stuff. And, yeah, it's funny. She's in her crazy busy season right now. So she's gone, Friday, Saturday, some Sundays. And then, I'm gone during the week. And so, the whole syncing calendars thing.
Shit's real, dude.
Extremely important. But yeah, man, it's like... It's such a fine line too, right? Because you want to do well with work so that you can provide for your family. So you feel like you have to do a lot of the events or the boards or whatever it is. But at the same time too, you're like, man, I want to spend so much time with my kids too. So that was the nice thing about COVID because we got to hang out with them 24/7. Right?
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I might be a little bit biased, but I feel like me and my kiddos have like a super close bond because of that, right? Where we were cooped up in the house with them, whether it's our decision or not. So I'm
whether you liked it or not.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see like how that develops and shakes out, But yeah, man, that's
Because was Liam born in 20 or 19?
Liam was literally
20.
born right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Okay.
Like I took 2 weeks off whenever he was born. Went back to work for a week. Then they shut everything down.
Yep.
That his 4th week of life, and then I was with him, like I said, like every day for 4 months. I worked from home for 4 months there. Yeah. And then Brody. I think we got COVID when Brody was little too, so we were stuck at home an additional 2 weeks on top of the 2 weeks that I took off. So, but
hardest thing talking about it. Terrible tangent, but hardest thing I've ever had to do as a dad was during COVID, because again, Mia was born middle of 18, right? So 19, 20. So she was not quite 2, right? Going into being 2 during the pandemic, and her getting COVID tested.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
So what that looked, they had drive-ups back then, right? They were drive-ups, and so what that looked like is the window down or the door open, the nurse outside in her full space suit, right? But Mia was old enough that I had to hold her down. And like hold the head and hold the arms. And I remember the first time it happened, like Kelsey was with me because we're at home, and I'm pulling out of like Mercy's Lot or whatever it was, just crying, just tears coming. Of course, Mia's in the back crying because she has no idea what the hell just happened to her. But like as a dad, the fact I had to hold her down and like literally it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do as a parent is hold her down during COVID tests because she has now that she's older, we call it nose medicine, and she knows what it is.
Creativity.
And because we tell her like, hey, this is what the doctor, she didn't know the difference between test and medicine, so we call it nose medicine. But like when she goes and gets her annual checkup now, she's like, do I have to get nose medicine? And I was like, no, not this
nose
time.
Medicine, just arm medicine.
No nose medicine. But it's something that she'll remember that crap probably the rest of her life.
Well,
so
I'm so glad that was not something we had to deal with the kiddo.
Yeah, well, that's what I was just thinking about. I mean, that's the bad side of it, right? But Mia was probably starting to get to a pretty fun age whenever COVID hit, right? So you guys were stuck at home for a long time. So, I mean, how fun was that? I mean, what kind of stuff did you guys do to like keep her? Because my guys, they were so small, you couldn't really you could hang out with them, but they would just lay there, right?
Yeah. So with Mia, so her and I are best buds, and so we're kind of the reverse, right? I've always been kind of the favorite parent just because I play a little harder.
It's a Bryant thing.
It might be. One of these things is not like the other.
You guys suck.
But we do we do a lot of the acrobatics with us, right? And so we talked about like the throwing on the bed, but the one that my wife hates the most is our house is split level. So you walk in on a landing, one part goes up, one part goes down, and so you got kind of landings on either side, and then it goes up or down. So this lower landing, when she was younger, like during COVID, and we moved her into her like an actual like single bed, we kept the old mattress from her like crib toddler, and so I'd lay it on the stairs, and she'd use it as a slide. So it started with just a slide. Then it started into a jumping slide. So she'd jump and so I bounced down, right? And I'm at the bottom, ready to catch her. And then now it's a diving board, and that it sits up on the landing, and she leaps off of it, and 7 stairs, and I'm at the bottom catching her, and Kelsey will be downstairs like on the couch, and we start playing. She's like, I'm going upstairs. Right. Like I'm not.
I can't watch this shit. Get me out of here.
So. That's how arms are broken.
That's right. So it kind of it evolved as she got a little bit older, and and now we just put her in gymnastics a while, and she's the most fearless thing.
Yeah,
4 years old, she was doing front flips off our dock down at the lake. Right? I've got it off, but yeah, she'll with her little wingies, she'll do a front flip right onto the dock there, off the dock.
That's great.
But that's how we passed the time, and that's probably why it evolved the way it did, because we had to spend so many hours together that just doing a slide's not as much fun as it used to be. So let's leap off of there.
That is funny, man. Gosh,
your insurance agent loves to hear that.
I was gonna say, I wasn't expecting it to.
You weren't my insurance agent at the time. If it's any consequence,
expecting it to go that way. I was thinking, maybe Nerf gun wars or something. No. We jump down the stairs.
On this episode of Jackass.
Right. Mini Jackass. We'll call it.
My name's Matthew Suarez. Welcome to Jackass.
Oh man, that's a pretty funny story.
That's good.
And that's something that we always ask everybody to is share with us some of your most funny stories that you have of being a dad.
So I have one that comes to mind. There's obviously everyone's got 100 of them, but my daughter brought home a black widow spider in her pocket one day.
Is this a pet?
She thought so. A real black widow spider. So.
Live?
Do not like it.
She says it was when she put it in there.
Oh my gosh.
So this is how the story goes. We
oh my god.
I pick her up from daycare and she goes, "Daddy, I have a spider in my pocket," just so innocently. And I'm thinking one or two things. Like one, okay, bullshit, whatever.
Right.
Or they got a lot of little plastic toys.
Yeah,
sometimes
it's a toy. Sure,
she comes home with one and then I bring it back the next day. Hey, my daughter stole the toy. Sorry. And so I'm like, oh, that's nice, great, wonderful. And so we get home and my mother-in-law happened to be in town and was going to have dinner with us at the house. And so I sit there. I was starting to cook and they're in the living room just right next to us, and she's like, "Nana, I've got a spider in my pocket." And Nana's like, "Oh, well, let me see." She pulls out the and my mother-in-law just screams from across and like slaps it out of her hand. And so we get it, we pick it up. It was dead. It was dead coming out of the pocket.
I was going to say, Nana killed it for
sure. And in 2 seconds, I was on the phone with the director of the daycare. I'm like, "Hey, let's about to have a conversation." And of course, Kelsey's in the corner crying because as a mom and as girls do. I mean, she was thinking of all of the things that could have happened, right? And I'm just angry, right? Dad responds, "I'm just pissed off," and
for sure.
And so what had happened is this was like a Monday. They'd come through the weekend and sprayed the playground and just done like their quarterly bug spray.
Sure.
And she probably found it just lying on the ground. And was like, "Hey, I'm going to take this home."
This looks fun.
But she attests to this day that it was alive when she put it in there. But most likely it was just on the ground. She put it in. But a black widow hourglass. I mean, I almost shit my pants.
Do not like at all.
Do
not like at all.
No.
Yeah, the other story that kind of comes to mind after the Black Widow one is last Christmas. And so, Mia's 4 years old, and one of the big things that we've tried to impress upon her is kind of music, right? A lot of Alexa music, and Christmas time, White Christmas is something we try to watch every year and everything. And so we were, we got the Christmas tree in the background, and her and I are dancing to a couple of White Christmas songs. So, I've got her hands, we're dancing, Kelsey's filming with the Christmas tree in the back, and so we're dancing, and then I'm like lifting her up and kind of picking her up and stuff like that. And then one time Mia thought it'd be funny. I swear it was pre-thought through. I picked her up and she swung both of her feet forward and got me right in the nads. and I dropped her just flat on her butt and fell face first on the ground. And I'm just down there in the fetal position, and Mia's in the background just laughing on film because she thought it was the funniest thing. She did. And Kelsey said that you could see the phone bouncing up and down because she's laughing at me. She can't keep the phone. But I'm sitting there, it's just so, it's like Hallmark movie-esque. Right. I'm dancing with my daughter at Christmas time. I pick her up, and then bam, becomes a Simpsons episode all at once.
There's your dad.
If she ever asks you why she doesn't have any brothers or sisters, I can show you the video as to why.
Yeah. Yep. Or I don't know if you guys are in this stage with your kids. I've really noticed it with Liam, not so much with Brody, but it's like when they're trying to get your attention, they run up to you and slot their hand, and for whatever reason,
they're at the wrong height.
My balls are the magnet for where that hit. comes every time. It's like, bam, like we were standing in the line at Chipotle today, and Liam's like, Dad, bam. I'm like, oh.
Especially when you're like basketball shorts, it's always like no protection whatsoever.
Come on, be okay. I'm gonna get your pancakes.
Everything you got.
Get your celery pancakes.
That's really good. Okay, so Matt, I meant to ask about this earlier, but I got distracted. So you are a fellow nerd.
True.
You and I both have a big affinity for, the Lord of the Rings, the fantasy stuff. Are you doing anything to instill any of that kind of stuff with Mia, or are you guys reading books, listening to watching movies, anything like that with her? Anything coming out for you guys?
All the above. Almost no movies yet, for the most part, and it's partly because of her attention span. She's still, even at 5 years old,
she's not old enough.
I still can't get her to sit down and watch like a Barney movie or like whatever,
really?
Yeah. So I mean, like my nephew, 6 months younger than Mia, he'll sit and he'll watch like an entire Paw Patrol movie or something like that. Like they actually took him to the Mario movie in the theater. Like Mia would be about Mia would be about 3 minutes and then screaming up and down the aisles. Like so movies not so much, but books
but also
have
she's
been
probably too young to go watch Return of the King or something.
Absolutely. But books, and then I may or may not own an action figure or two that might be floating around the house, which are real great for a 5-year-old, and so
a lot of small pieces.
But she loves Power Rangers, particularly the Pink Ranger. But my favorite thing, she conflates Darth Vader, and she thinks Darth Vader is a Power Ranger. She knows his name. She knows it's a Darth Vader. He's a Power Ranger because they're full.
I like that a lot.
Because she's got an old Pink Ranger that was Kelsey's, and then I've got some Darth Vader stuff around, and she knows Kenobi because we watched Kenobi, and she was in the room, and so she's got a few Star Wars books, and she'll be like Kenobi and Chewie, and so so we're integrating characters kind of at this point, but yes, absolutely imperative for her to be a nerd as well.
She has no chance.
I had all of the Lord of the Rings books because we're of the age where books on tape were actually on tape.
Yeah, literal tape.
Cassette tape.
Or I had all the Harry Potter books on tape, but then I had Lord of the Rings books on CD. And so I listened to those, the Lord of the Rings books in particular, just on repeat. Just start at the top and run it to the bottom and then start it over again. And I had a CD player that lived.
Kids these days have it so easy.
Well, it is just so different that doesn't exist. But I am slowly but surely I'm going to start that with else.
Yeah.
My stuff is more video game oriented than it was. I mean, I love the fantasy stuff. I Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit is still probably my favorite book of all time.
Yep.
And so a lot of that stuff I will try to get her into, but a lot of mine went video game route when I was middle school, high school. It was all video games. Yep. And so Elsie I don't obviously play many video games now, but she still will come downstairs and the PlayStation's set up in the other room. We don't touch it anymore, but she'll go over there and grab the controller and she holds it upside down, and it's just the funniest thing in the world to see her hold. It's like she's got the little nubs pointed at the TV. I'm playing games, Dad. I'm playing games.
Quit bothering me.
Leave me alone. I'm playing games. No, I just had to ask because I was just curious if that's something that you guys got.
Yeah, it's something that we're kind of integrating at this point. But I mean, and I know one of the things that you bring up on the questionnaire is the things that you're excited for, future, right? And I didn't write anything about it, but for me, that's the future stuff that I'm excited for, right? Because we're huge movie folks, so when she gets to that point, movies are going to be huge. But talking about The Hobbit, my dad read The Hobbit to me when I was about 6 or 7,
really?
right? And so that was our nightly routine as we kind of graduated from the children's books to he read me The Hobbit at 6 or 7, right? And so she's not quite there, but within the next couple 3 years, I mean, Fellowship. Little wordy probably, but I mean The Hobbit, stuff like that, and
The Hobbit's still a pretty relatively juvenile book.
It was written for children. Yeah.
It's not super. The vocabulary's not super complex. There's not sex or anything like that that you've got to worry about.
He doesn't spend a chapter climbing stairs or rowing down a river.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, most of it. I mean, the scariest stuff in there is Smeagol and the trolls.
And the spiders, but not for Mia, obviously.
She's not scared.
She's not scared. Yeah.
She's fine.
She's going to be there with Sting going, you bastards.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the Dragon's pretty scary, but
Yeah.
like most of that stuff, it's pretty harmless. Like I think that'd be pretty fun.
But that's probably the next 5 years will be that's going to be the most exciting for me. Is just
Can't freaking wait.
just indulge her in the nerd culture because that's will be the next 5 years.
God, I'm so excited for you. I'm excited for you for that. I love it. So before we get too far off on the tangents, because I'm pretty sure Matthew and I could talk about this ad nauseum, and Derek could sit here and drool.
Well, you're spoiling it all for me.
If
it's
it's
on my
any
2023 book list, okay?
if it's any consolation, Derek, I read the trilogy first at 14, read it again in college, and wrote my own footnotes. Like I still have my copy that I have my own handwritten footnotes. So
I watched the movies at 26.
They came out when we were 14.
Listen, we've talked a lot about sports shit for a lot of
That's fair.
episodes.
That's
it's
fair.
time for us to get out.
That's
Well,
fair. That's
time for some nerdgasms up in this house.
Nerdgasms. Yeah.
So before we get too far off on this tangent that we definitely could get on, we do have to get to everybody's favorite part of the episode.
What's everybody's favorite part?
It's Dad Joke of the Week.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Yeah, it is.
time for the jokes, and I understand that Matthew has brought a couple of jokes,
And a special one.
and he had a writer.
I had a writer, ghost writer, if you will. So Mia hit me with this dad joke on the way home from daycare about 3 weeks ago.
Dude,
okay.
And
I love this.
I almost crashed the car laughing. Partially because it's funny, but partially because I didn't know my daughter could tell jokes.
Yeah, right.
Let alone, she set it up, punchline, everything. She
Yeah.
nailed it. So Mia's contribution to the podcast is, where does a cow go to watch TV? To the movies.
Yes, that a girl.
Like for
Nice
a
work.
5-year-old?
5-year-old.
That is
She
good.
was 4 when I heard the joke.
Set up,
Yeah.
punchline.
She
Sick.
nailed
That's
it.
awesome.
Well
Way
done,
to go,
Mia.
Mia.
Yeah.
Way to go,
Yeah.
kiddo. That's
Yep.
solid.
And I have heard that joke no less than 723
Well, I
times
understand.
since
They get
that.
hooked on.
That's kind of part of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So I had a thought, kind of tangent, as
Oh,
I
you
was
got one too? Okay, perfect.
going through trying to find my favorite dad joke. One of my favorite things on like TikTok and YouTube is the guys who tell dad jokes to each other and try to get each other to laugh.
Oh, yeah.
Don't give them all away. That's where we get all our jokes.
Oh, sorry.
You can only use one of those. Okay.
I think you guys need to start a second podcast of just
We did one episode where it was like most of it, like 20 minutes of it was a dad joke.
Was
off.
dad joke.
Yeah,
Dad joke
so
off.
good.
Yep. I think
Current
it's got,
champ right here. Okay?
I think it's got potential. So, all right. So I brought a list of like 8. We don't have time for all of that. But probably my favorite one, just because I'm a 12-year-old boy at heart, is what kind of bee produces milk?
Is it boobies?
It is a booby. It is a booby.
Give me another one. Keep going.
All right. Why is my wallet is a lot like an onion? Every time I open it, I cry. As a fellow dad of a daughter, yeah,
All
yeah.
parents can relate.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
One
Hang on.
No, you're fine. We're in no rush. Take your time.
Okay. Yep. Here's a good Christmas one. What do you call a wintertime contract? A Santa Claus.
That's pretty good. I love that.
Well done.
Follow that, Derek.
Right, I know. I'm like, dude, my joke's gonna be crap now.
It's hard to
Oh,
follow
thanks,
boobies.
Matt.
It's hard to
Right,
follow
I know,
boobies.
yeah.
Exactly.
Mine's not about boobies, but did you guys hear about the pirate with the obese parrot?
Parrot.
Parrot. Yeah.
Nope. Go ahead.
Unfortunately, the parrot died, but it was a huge weight off the pirate's shoulders.
Holy shit.
That was good.
I was sitting here going, I don't know where this is going, and I'm very confused.
Where's the punchline?
Okay.
But he died.
So do you guys want to hear a joke about an Indian restaurant or a joke about a dyslexic grandpa?
Yes.
I think you should combine them.
Okay.
One setup and one punchline.
So my brother married into an Indian family, and so I think I actually heard this one at his wedding. I went
better.
I went into an Indian restaurant, and the food was killer. It was awesome. So I asked for the recipe. I asked the waiter for a recipe, and I can't really share it with y'all though, because I signed a non-disclosure.
Mm.
Yeah. I thought that one was good.
Yeah. That one hurts so good.
And then my grandfather was a dyslexic baker in the Army, actually.
Oh.
And yeah, he used to go in all buns glazing.
And now I'm visualizing that.
And the funny thing was, my grandfather was actually a cook in the Army. Like, really?
A Bryant joke.
Go in, buns glazing.
But he did not go in buns glazing. No, not at all. Matt, did you have fun?
It was a great time.
Good.
It was a great time.
Well, we love having our friends on, particularly guys that we have known for as long as we have. So thank you so much for being here. We would also like to say thank you to you, the person on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this podcast. We really appreciate all the viewers on YouTube in particular. We are at 1,720 subscribers at time of recording. And we really appreciate all of them. So give us your dad hacks. Give us your dad jokes. Put them in the comments. DM them to us so we can steal them. We want to not have to do our own research. We just want your stories so we can steal them. We'll try and credit you, but yeah. We'll try real hard. But we appreciate all of you. And I guess all we really have to say left is way to go, decent dad.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you.
So unless anybody else has anything else,
I got nothing.
Got nothing.
all right. Thanks for being here, bro. We'll see you next time. No way. There is absolutely.
Yeah.